If I want to find a particular user, I have a few ways of doing that. This is going to show recently active or newest members. So if it's someone in those categories, I can select them directly. I can also do a quick search up here. And you guys probably know this, but in ActionKit, an email address is a user. No concept of a person built into our database. And you can see that here by how many of me there are. These are all the ways, all the emails I've signed up with. A new user is created each time. You can also get to a specific user quickly by typing in their email. And you have two other search options. You can use the advanced search. This gives you a point-and-click selection options, and you can get pretty sophisticated with this. Basic example is, let's see, I'm going to do everyone who lives in Truckee. And this is going to return a list of everyone who meets that criteria. The relatively new search option we've added is the ability to write reports and save them as search queries. The value of this is if you've got someone who writes SQL, you could have an optimized search query. You guys have a big list, so some of the advanced search criteria will time out because it uses the point-and-click interface, and that's written to be quite flexible, not quite efficient. So here's some examples of ones. Some of these are ones we've written for this instance, and some of them are shared generally. But you can use these. And also, if you guys find that you're timing out, we are currently wanting to add to this list of queries that we're sharing with everyone. So limited time offer, we'll write the SQL for you if you let us know what you'd like to see here. So those are all the ways you can find a set of users. Now let's look at a user and see what information you can see about them here. In my overview, I've got a summary. So this is going to show their subscription status. I can manage their subscriptions from here. It's going to show me their action history, issue interest, sharing they've done, donations, geography info, which is US specific currently here in terms of the districts, phone numbers, and custom user fields. And Chris talked a bit about custom user fields. These are where you'll capture standing information about the user, and you can have as many of these fields as you'd like, and they can be used for multiple purposes. And you can also set information type. So people will have to, like for gender, you might have defined choices here. So instead of just letting me type in any choice I want, F, female, woman, I'd want to have that defined so that later you can make sure that the data is consistent. And the staff notes section down here is our tiny bit of CRM. You can add time-stamped notes about the user, and you can search for these as well. So I can do something like, I'm going to call her back on this date, and then I can search for anyone who has that date or call back or whatever, and I'm going to get a list of users who match that criteria. Other things you can see here are really just a summary of the interactions the user has had with the organization. So I can see a history of all of this user's actions, and if I click on one of these, I can see the source of the action. Sourcing is important because that's basically how you tell what's effective at getting people to your particular page. Every action within ActionKit is going to have a source. Most of the time, it's going to be a mailing that you sent to your users, and we'll record that they came both from the mailing and the ID of that specific mailing. The website source is generic for people that we don't know how they got to your page. often you will know how they got to your page. So you can define a source for any URL that you control by appending some information to the URL. So if you've got a Facebook ad or any kind of a partner page, you can source actions to that. The other thing that you'll see here is survey responses, and I've got a survey here somewhere, but I don't see it. But what you'll have in here is the survey responses will show below the action. Mailings, I can see if someone's interacted overall with my mailings and for each individual mailing what they did. Donations aren't relevant. You can see subscription history, which list they belong to and when they switched. And you can also see event attendance and their role. So this gives you a good broad view of any way in which the user has interacted with your organization. The other thing that you can do from this tab is import information. And this is users, but it really means import almost anything that's related to one of your users. So I can add new users as long as I have their email address. I can append information to existing users, like it could upload phone numbers or employers if I got that information somewhere. I could also record external actions. So if people came to an in-person event, I'd be able to upload their attendance so that my view of their actions is complete. And then erase users actually is something that we added for GDPR. So that is something that you're going to want to talk to David about when you'd use, but just so you know it's here, it's one of the options that's available for compliance. So if someone calls in and wants to have their information deleted, you can do that. It's basically anonymized if you select this. So that's everything that's available from the Users tab and the options that you have for interacting with it. And this is just an example of the custom user fields and some of the criteria you can use, like you can see here, if you add a new one, you get to define the field type. And we're going to just require that it matches. Anything you enter on the Users tab matches the field type. And as I mentioned, that's for data consistency.